What's going on? It's SFT. Thank you for watching this video, and please subscribe and like the damn video. We're going to be talking about the Dallas Cowboys today. Let's talk about the Dallas Cowboys. I don't dislike the Dallas Cowboys. As a Dolphins fan, I've always been, especially not being too old, I've always been somewhat indifferent to them. I haven't really been through, I know that sounds crazy, but I haven't been through their obnoxious era of continuous excellence. The Dallas Cowboys were pushed through the media shamelessly. However, the success didn't come with that. And I was able to separate the media on one hand and the Dallas Cowboys, the football team, a part of the NFL on the other hand. And this football team, for a large portion of my life, has been the embodiment of disappointment, of consistently falling short of what's expected of them. And there's a lot of reasons why we expect failure in a way from the Dallas Cowboys season in season out. It's just a matter of time for the Dallas Cowboys. We all see it. We all know coming playoff time against a good opponent, they're bound to crumble. But why? What's the reason for that? So we're going to start off with what the season has looked like. It's been a disappointing season, obviously. Dak Prescott halfway through the season against the Falcons, I believe, tore his hamstring, and he's been out for the rest of it. Cooper Rush has come in, had some good games, like against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, had some really underwhelming games, like against the Eagles this weekend. And this season was supposed to be another year where they push for the playoffs. They maybe clean up on certain aspects of their team. I knew that Dan Quinn left the team as the defensive coordinator. I thought it was a great leave for the Dallas Cowboys. Not only a great hire for the Washington Commanders, I thought it was a great leave for the Dallas Cowboys because this defense had a peak to it. This defense could not play at an elite level against elite offenses. This defense lacked physicality, especially in the interior. I'll get to that later on in this video. And the corners are really good on this team. I don't really have an issue with the corners on the team, but the lack of consistent pressure the opponent gets against this Dallas defensive line, especially through the interior, has been one of the biggest issues this season. They've had a lot of blowout losses against the Saints getting absolutely mauled, against the Lions getting smoked at home again, against the Eagles twice, against the Ravens getting beat up on. They had a little respectable score cleanup towards the end of the game. Dak Prescott doing what Dak Prescott does, stacking up stats late in the game, but an overall underwhelming season, especially with the signing and how last season's free agency looks for them. You look at their free agency, it's one of the worst free agencies in the NFL. I'll call it the worst free agency in the NFL. You replace your previous linebacker that consistently had neck injuries with a new linebacker in Eric Kendricks, and he's had a decent season. He's been decent. He hasn't been great. He hasn't been bad. It's hard for you to judge a lot. It's hard for you to judge a linebacker when everything around him is not really performing at a high level. No different than it's hard to judge a corner based on a lack of pressure that the quarterback's on. So he's going to be getting a lot of free shots, a lot of quality looks, the ability to throw the ball with anticipation. No different than the defensive line when your corners are consistently getting killed. How much does the pressure really mean? So this Dallas defense needs to play on one accord, and they've shown certain parts of the season they have been able to. But for a large portion of the season, especially in the bigger games at home, they haven't been able to get the job done. With your only offseason signing being a linebacker, there's so much more your team needed. Your team needed a true upgrade at that defensive tackle position. That's what you guys really need to upgrade, man. The ability to consistently stop someone, to generate pressure through the middle, to get tackles for losses. You have the guys on the edge. You have the Michael Parsons. You have the DeMarcus Lawrences. You have those type of players that can generate pressure from the edge. So what else do you need to work on? And it starts with your linebacker position, really upgrade. I can't remember the last time the Dallas Cowboys had an elite linebacker. They've struggled to have an elite linebacker, and that's not because they've struggled to draft linebackers and develop them. They've had success drafting defensive linemen, drafting corners, and developing them. This linebacker position, to me, speaks to a greater issue in this defense in terms of the lack of development. It's one of the hardest positions to develop as a linebacker. It's a position that's extremely dependent on everything around it, and not just that. Great decision making, great intellectual development, and player development through and through. They have to know the playbook, be able to command the defense, and make quick, instinctual, fraction of a second decisions that can get this team to win football games. And they've lacked that individual for, I would say, a long period of time. I'm not talking about a good linebacker, no, I'm talking about an elite linebacker. A guy like Fred Warner, a guy like Matt Milano, a guy like Roquan Smith. I think that's somebody that's absolutely essential to the Dallas Cowboys, and most elite defenses have elite linebackers. And are we shocked that a team like Dallas Cowboys have not had an elite linebacker in the longest time? But getting off of Eric Kendricks, I want to get to their offseason exits. I have it right here. Tyron Smith, absolutely understandable left tackle. He was getting up there in age, a lot of injuries, couldn't stay healthy throughout the majority of the season, had some elite years with the Dallas Cowboys. They got as much as possible from his contract, but Tony Pollard to the Titans, don't have an issue with that at all. There's no point of paying a running back if your offensive line is struggling. Dorrance Armstrong, defensive end. I was not a fan of this. He went to the Commanders. You will not be shocked that a lot of the defensive ends from the Cowboys went to the Commanders, and their defensive line has been a revelation this year. They have been so much better. Their depth has been so much better. Outside of that, we have Tyler Biadasz. He also went to the Commanders. So we got 3 guys going to the Commanders. Neville Gallimore went to Dolphins. Noah Ajinobejini, my apologies for butchering his name, cornerback, went to the Commanders. Jonathan Hankins, defensive tackle, went to the Seahawks. So we have a lot of guys leaving this defense, exiting this defense. We have some key guys exiting this defensive line, and you haven't made up for that. You haven't brought new signings in. What do you expect to come out of the season? And you re-sign Dak Prescott on the last day, make him the highest paid quarterback. You re-sign CeeDee Lamb. I'm a fan of that re-signing. You have a lot of big signings. You have to go pay Micah Parsons coming this free agency. But still, this is not a good position to be in if you're the Dallas Cowboys. A lot of big contracts on a non-Super Bowl team. This is the type of contracts that a team like the Detroit Lions can do. The Detroit Lions are there. They have all the complementary players, all the development players, all the guys that are ready to step into that new role, all the guys who've shown they can play at that level. You know, this is a team like this is a team like the damn 49ers can build. This is a team like the Chiefs can build, the Bills can build, the Ravens can build. But you're the Dallas Cowboys, man. Just a lot of immature GM decisions, roster handling, and we're going to get to the GM right now. We got to talk about Jerry Jones, man. Jerry Jones, to me, I don't think I've seen an owner in a sport that is as hands-on with their team as Jerry Jones, who wants to be around their team as much as possible, who wants to be the face of their team, really. When you go to most teams, you think about the head coach or a star player at the face of the team. When you go to Dallas Cowboys, you think about Jerry Jones, man, and how he runs that ship. He's a disgrace of a GM. I'm not a fan of him at all. Ruined this luxurious, precious brand that is the Dallas Cowboys. The NFL needs the Dallas Cowboys. Like, you are one of its premier brands, and you're consistently just destroying your value year in, year out. This has been such a disappointment and such a disgrace to the NFL. Imagine how much better the NFL would be if the Dallas Cowboys were great. I'm going to start off with the head coaching hires. I've never been a fan really of the head coaching hires. This one has worked a little bit more than the previous one has, but still underachieving year in, year out. That falls on the head coach, not on the players. No, it falls on the head coach and the general manager. Mainly the head coach, who you bring in as your defensive coordinator. The lack and the inability the last couple of years to deal with emotion against the Green Bay Packers, against the 49ers in the playoffs, consistently struggling against motion. A lot of the better teams in the NFL use motion a lot. Against the Bills last year, getting absolutely ran down. This year, it's kind of harder for me to speak about this year because of the injuries they've had, but before that, some of the bigger games against the Ravens, getting blown out, having no run game, just the mismanaging of the squad, you know, the deterioration of this offensive line. There's so many things I can get into when it comes to the failure of the Dallas Cowboys. Consistently hiring yes men and not hiring individuals that can challenge this team, that can bring a different dynamic to this team, and can overall elevate this team. I remember Micah Parsons once said in an interview, I believe it was after a blowout loss to the Detroit Lions, something of that nature, right? Or maybe it was a loss to the Eagles. He said that, I don't really, to paraphrase what he said, right? He was talking about pretty much, I feel bad for the guys who were retiring, the guys who were on their last years, guys like Zach Martin, that never really had an opportunity, you know, to do anything of significance with his team. They never had an opportunity to take that next huge step with his team. And he also insinuated, you guys keep asking me about Mike McCarthy and the fact that he's going to leave it, and he can leave if he wants to and get another job. I think that is perfect way to sum up this team. Mike McCarthy, no matter what, Mike McCarthy is not the head coach of this team. He's Jerry Jones' best friend, somebody who follows his wishes, and he's going to be fine wherever he goes. So there's a lot of things this Dallas Cowboy needs just in terms of coaching. A new defensive culture that's really built not from the inside, man. That's not built on getting guys who are castaways or haven't been coaching for long periods of times or are failed head coaches. No. You need to bring in a hot defensive coordinator, somebody that can elevate this team and take it to the next level. Outside of that, you got to get their offensive coordinator. Run-heavy offense. The Dallas Cowboys are a run-first football team. Period. Since the time of Emmitt Smith and even before that, they're a run-first football team and they're a tough defensive team. When you try to change this culture and you try to change what this team has always been for years and years and years with Tony Romo, with the like of Dak Prescott, even the quarterbacks before them, they have always prided themselves on being a really good offensive line and a really good defensive line. And we're going to get to the offensive line, man. So in 2016, the offensive line for the Dallas Cowboys was left tackle Tyron Smith, left guard Ronald Leary, center Travis Frederick, right guard Zach Martin, right tackle Lyle Calling, and I think at least 3 of these guys became Pro Bowlers. I know 2 of them, Zach Martin and Travis Frederick, were definitely Pro Bowlers. I don't know Tyron Smith if he was a little bit inactive during that season. I remember that season pretty well. It was a really good season for the Dallas Cowboys. They went 13-3, won the NFC, and this offensive line with Ezekiel Elliott running behind it was absolutely elite. If you look at this offensive line right now, you got Chuma Adogu at the left tackle position, Tyler Smith at the left guard, Cooper Bebe at the center. You got Zach Martin still, and lastly, they have Terrence Steele at right tackle. Their offensive line has absolutely struggled this year, and there's a multitude of different reasons why. A really young offensive line, left tackle, Chuma Edogu, I believe it's his first year playing for replacing Tyron Smith. Terrence Steele, he was playing last year, and this year he's continuing. Another poor year. I'm personally saying that. I think he's been really poor with his time in Dallas. I've been really underwhelmed by him. And outside of that, Zach Martin, he's pretty much done. Cooper Bebe, I hope he can be good. Tyler Smith is a bright spot in this offensive line. I thought he was excellent last year, but outside of that, only one certified guy on this offensive line. The rest of the guys are question marks. You don't know what they're going to be, and this offensive line has been a shadow of what they have always been. Lastly, we're going to get to the defense. Decent linebacker play, but overall a soft interior, as I mentioned earlier. Their defensive line, seeing that they lost a lot of guys, a lot of depth to the Commanders, who look excellent this year. They've become a shadow of themselves from last year. And even last year, I thought there were some really questionable moments against the Bills and other run-heavy teams. But this year has been a sheer disgrace in terms of the runs they've given up, the way they've been bullied at the line of scrimmage continuously. To me, the lack of development from this team. This is a team that doesn't want to go out in the market, as we've seen this year, and go spend big money on new free agents to bring them to the team. This is the Dallas Cowboys. We know the Dallas Cowboys. They don't like to spend big money on signings that are not already on the team or a really hot piece like Amari Cooper a couple of years ago. They like to relax. They like to bring in a guy here and there to fill in a role, but not to make those marquee signings in free agency yet. It's clearly killed them. They lacked quality that is expected out of them, and their inability to develop this year has really hurt them. The last couple of years, they've done a really good job of developing their team, developing new tight ends. They previously let one tight end leave to the Houston Texans. They replaced him with the current one, and he's playing very good. They've let Amari Cooper leave and let CeeDee Lamb take the reins, and you've seen what he's become. They've let a lot of guys leave, and they've let a lot of guys develop. They've done a great job, especially at the cornerback position, of developing guys, maximizing their potential. And we haven't seen the same thing with other positions like the linebacker position, like the defensive line position, like the offensive line, that require a lot more effort, that require a lot better development and better overall coaching. I'm going to finish off this with, what do you think the Dallas Cowboys are going to be in the next couple of years? The exact same thing. This team is a perfect depiction of what the Dallas Cowboys are. It's a damn shame to see what this organization has been, what Jerry Jones has done to this organization, especially at the core of it, destroying the core of it. And we're looking at these coaches, these players, so vague. You know, if you were to ask these guys, what does it mean to play for the Dallas Cowboys? It means nothing. You ask a guy like Michael Parsons, what does it mean to play for the Dallas Cowboys? It means nothing. It don't mean nothing. What does it mean to represent the Dallas Cowboys? The story, America's team, it means nothing. It's a damn shame. Thank you so much for watching this video. Subscribe, take care, peace.